Matthew, your paper advocates that those who minister with and to youth take advantage of, resource their ministries with an interdisciplinary approach to youth ministry. What do you mean by an interdisciplinary approach?
Yeah, so for most of human history, all these disciplines of theology and philosophy and science were very united, and then it really was around the time of the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment that they split apart, and I think to great detriment. But kind of in academic circles, reintegrating these things in interdisciplinary talk is a very exciting concept, as people are starting to realize that each discipline has its picture of the human being that gets many things right and gets many things wrong. For instance, many sociologists view humans as just a bundle of social drives and are viewed that way. Other people view human beings in a very biologically reductionist way. Some theologians view humans without taking into account kind of the limitations we have as biological creatures. And I think that in order to come up with resources that will better equip adolescents, we need to think of the adolescent as a psychological, social, biological, spiritual being. And conversely, I think as adolescents are thinking about how am I going to have a more flourishing life, how am I going to experience joy, they need to explore all of these disciplines. So it's not just a question of reading philosophy or just reading theology, but you also have to be taking care of yourself biologically, you have to be healthy psychologically. And so when I think about kind of how this approach would apply to youth ministry, I think, for instance, a great example is how there's a lot of people who have kind of just very, they feel their worldview is tenuous. So for these people, engaging in more philosophical training might help them as they come to see Christianity against the context of other religions. What are the unique claims about Christianity? And also in exploring apologetics, kind of what are these doubts that I have? How can these be resolved? Other people, I think, it's very difficult. There's a lot of spiritual things that are very wrapped up in just are being embodied. So I think that when after David is repenting and God tells him the first thing to do is go eat, I think that's a real testimony to, and we look over all the rest of the Bible, and there's all these kind of prescriptions for how we are to worship and all these rituals, and I really think it's because God recognizes that we learn so much through our bodies, and certain spiritual truths can only be really most easily arrived at kind of through respecting ourselves as physical creatures. So when we are baptized and we come into new life, we understand our sin being washed away because we know what it's like to physically clean ourselves. And this is actually a concept that in philosophy of mind and cognitive science is beginning to have a lot of traction. This idea that a lot of our higher level thinking is actually determined by our physical states. So it's very important that we take care of ourselves biologically, because that can often have spiritual consequences for not having healthy biologically. And then also, there can be great spiritual truths that are recognized through our understanding of ourselves as kind of embodied creatures.